Get transcript. Recording in progress. Hooray. Let's get all this stuff out of the way. I'll make you guys smaller. Cool. So today we are going to talk about web accessibility, but more from the side of the code that you write and the code that you assess. Part of what I'm going to have you do this week is look at another website that is on the internet and see if there's anything wrong with it. Give it a go. I'm going to show you a few different tools today. You might not end up using all of them, but they can be pretty helpful. And something I've been thinking a lot about is like showing you guys this before you actually start building your websites fully for real and start styling them, before you start designing them, because it kind of will help you identify things people commonly do wrong. So before I delve right into like actually doing hands-on testing, in the resources for this week, I included a link to, okay, sure, give me the cookies, to this article. I'm not going to like read the whole thing out loud to you. You can look at it. It's linked in the post. It also is short. Again, I don't like to link insanely long posts because I know you won't read them. But I like this one because it just kind of like covers some like common things people do wrong. Some of these things I've talked to you about already, but I'll review them. The first one being image alt text errors. When I have an example page up and I'm running some testing, I'll go into some different examples. But alt text is an attribute that you have to put on an image element. And it is a little line of text that will show up if for anyone the image doesn't load. If the image isn't there, it'll show the alt text instead. But also for anyone that can't see the screen or interact with the screen in a traditional way, let's say somebody's using a screen reader, that image will be communicated to them via the alt text you leave or choose to not leave if it's decorative. And knowing when an image is decorative or not and providing the appropriate alt text is critical to your user experience for everyone who's visiting your page. So that's when people forget to put an alt text at all. And if you don't, the file name of the image will get read aloud to the user, which I don't think a lot of people know. Or like another mistake of well-intentioned people is writing really long alt text for an image that is not critical to the understanding of what's on the page, like writing like a really long story about their dog because it's a picture of their dog, when it's like not actually all that relevant to the page aside from being a picture of a dog. What up? Yeah, I'll talk about specific scenarios when I'm testing an actual website. The next one is keyboard accessibility issues. Not everyone on the internet navigates it with a keyboard and a mouse. And some people use something that is called a switcher. When you look into like more varied forms of motor disabilities, switcher is like, it can take a few different formats. For some people, it's just a big ass button that they're hitting just because they don't have the dexterity for a click. For some people, they might have no motion in their arms or hands at all, and it might be something they operate with their mouth. For some people who have various forms of paralysis, there's like a switcher can be put behind somebody's head and they can like kind of knock it with their head. There's like a bunch of different, like it's a whole world of alternative input devices. But the best way that you can look out for people who might be using stuff like that on your own is just, hello, do I have a page open somewhere? That's my big Chrome window. Boop, there we go. Wait, that's what I wanted. And this is a tool we'll look at later, but pressing the tab key on your keyboard will like move this little box around your page. That box is called a focus ring. And when you don't use interactive elements correctly, sometimes that focus ring cannot show up at all, which is not good because people won't. It's like the equivalent of having no way of letting somebody know they're hovering on something if they're using a mouse. And then the other issue can be that they won't know it's an interactive element, or it'll like bounce around in like the absolute wrong order of the page and they're just like scrolling around the page all crazy. That most likely won't happen in the websites you guys are building because they probably are like static text-based websites with a couple of links. And by default, you don't actually have to do anything. Links should have a focus behavior that's linear and expected, unless you do something to trifle with them. So the real key takeaway here is just don't trifle with the focus order on the page. This one's gonna be big, and we talked about it last time when we were talking about inclusive design. Labeling things and how you name things is really important. Like if you have 7 links on your page and you name 3 of them read more to like tell you to go to another page, there is a mode that a lot of people who are using assistive technology will use that will just show them all the links on the page, and then they pick which one they want to use to like get around faster. And if a lot of your links are named the exact same and also don't reflect where they go, people won't be able to use your website. So like ensuring that you provide meaningful, short, like concise names that describe a link's purpose is pretty big. That's kind of tied into both of those, the non-descriptive text for hyperlinks. This one also goes back to something I talked about last time, which is click targets and touch targets, making sure that they are at least 24 by 24 pixels, with the only exception being a text link that is in line. Like if I had the word for as a link and it had like the little underline under it, that might not measure to exactly 24 by 24 pixels. The reason why it's allowed is because somebody could just increase their magnification if they were having an issue. But anytime you're designing a button or interactive element on your page, it needs to be at least 24 by 24, but especially if you have mobile users, you want to go for the better standard of 44 by 44, because that's what a fingertip needs. It's a little bit more of a blunt instrument than a mouse is. So that's another thing to consider. This one won't come up too much because I don't know how many of you will have tables, but tables can be a bit of an accessibility minefield. Marking up an HTML table correctly can be very difficult. Utilizing automated tools that help write tables that are accessible is a good thing to do. But also, if you end up in a situation where you have a table, let's talk and I can probably help you. Or like if you're testing as you work, one of the tools we're going to use to do testing has table specific functionality. And if it finds something wrong, it will try its best to tell you how to correct it. Your heading levels is really important, and the order of that the heading levels. I'll show you a little bit of that. We looked a little bit when I was talking about heading levels in the past at that document outline in that tool, Andy. So I'll show you again how to do that. We talked a lot about color contrast last time. A lot of these automated tools that I'm going to show you will also check for color contrast, kind of like how Stark checks for color contrast in Figma. This is something I think automated tests are awesome at doing, because they're a computer doing a calculation. Well, like I actually can't tell what the exact numerical color contrast ratio is with my eyes and my brain just off the top of my head. So using automated tools for it's really good. This one people forget about a lot is like let's say you are making a portfolio site and you link your resume inside of it, and your resume is a PDF file. You can have a beautiful accessible website, but then if you have poor document accessibility on your linked file, that can be a problem. But if any of you actually have embedded files, we can talk and I can help you learn about how to do that. But in general, good rule of thumb is set the document up in Word and use headings, and Word's pretty good about binding the heading levels into a PDF as they're supposed to be done. And then using the same descriptive text for different resources, like having links with the same name that are going to different places. I've seen that happen a little bit with like completely by accident, where it's like there's a contact link in the header for like the active people who make the website. Then there's another contact link somewhere within the website about something else that more context was added as the page went on. But there are ways around that, and I'm gonna show you some of them. But this is a really good overview of things to look out for. I just talked about them at a high level, just kind of put things in context before I start testing things, so you're not like, whoa, what happened? And again, all of this is linked back to the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, which is like that really long, verbose website that the W3C makes. those success criteria are like the guiding light, the entire accessibility world around the entire accessibility community in the whole world uses, like most governments, regardless of where they are, use some form of the WCAG standards as their reference point. It's kind of like one of the few things we've all just decided to agree upon. It's crazy. Okay. So I've made a page on our blog, which I can only look at pages on the blog in Safari. So we're going to stay in Safari still. This page can be accessed from the blog post, but also in the top level navigation, there's a link there that says resources. And if you click the drop down, I have added, like, anytime there was an HTML resource I was referencing and also my own notes, you can find them in there. But there's a new one there that says ally testing. You'll see this sometimes in the world of accessibility, that the word accessibility gets shortened down to A11Y. Because somebody was being really clever and realized it was 11 letters between the A and Y and the Y, and it's like a shorter word. They're like, this is our branding, actually. So I thought I would expose you to that. So that's why you see A11Y testing. And so there are 3 automated tools I've come across a lot in my career that I'm going to show you. And then one that's kind of like a mix between an automated testing tool and a manual testing tool. When I say automated testing, I mean, like, you press a button and then some tests happen on the page and it gives you back the results and tells you what it thinks is wrong and what it thinks you did well. The other format of testing for accessibility is manual testing. There's only one tool that I think helps guide that very well, which is Andy, which is sort of like a combination of automated tests and manual tests, in that, like, you have to go to certain categories in Andy to get it to run the related tests to the things that are on the page. It will also automatically determine, like, if there's not a table on your page, like, tables won't show up in the dropdown. If there is not any images on the page, like graphics images won't show up. It gives you a little bit more control over what information you're receiving when, and I find it can give you a little bit more information than what automated tests are capable of doing. Because automated tests are looking for the things you can find with, like, math and code, and then telling you which ones are wrong. Like, you didn't link this form field's label to the form field itself, and so no one will know what this form field says. And it's like, true, good catch. A limitation of automated tools is, though, that they are limited to just what it can find in the code and what mathematical calculations it can make. So I find the things that are more tied to design or, like, about fundamental user experience actually can't be found in those automated tools. I think the figure that DQ, which is the people that make Axe, has out there is that 57% of WCAG criteria cannot be tested for with automated tools. And the rest of them you have to test for yourself and, like, actually involve users and have them tested and see what it's like. What website do I want to use to test from? I didn't even think this far. You know, let's use the New Paltz website. I bet you it's bad. So we'll go to New Paltz. We'll go to this nice page on the New Paltz website, and we'll test from here. So to use any of the automated testing tools I'm going to be talking about today, a lot of them are installed as Chrome extensions. I should probably do that first. I just kind of show how to install a Chrome extension. So the first is one that's made by Microsoft that is an automated checking tool called Accessibility Insights for Web. Accessibility Insights for Web also does do a guided manual assessment where, like, it gives you each criteria and is like, it just, like, gives you instructions. It doesn't do anything automated for you. So that part's cool, but I like their fast pass automated checking. Let me grab my link from Safari and go to Chrome, because now I'm gonna need DevTools and Chrome things. My situation is, do I have installed already? Yes, I do. Basically, you hit download for web and it should take me to a thing for adding it to Chrome. You can also install it onto Edge. I already have it on Chrome, so it's going to say remove from Chrome. but if you click, it should say for you because you don't have it, it should be add to Chrome. And then where it will show up is under your extensions. Here is a little puzzle piece up in the top right corner. Fun fact about me is I cannot tell right from left, so you will see me refer to my hands. I wrote it on my hands for my driver's test when I was 17. You might not see it in this little bar next to your address bar. So you can go into the little puzzle piece here, and then you should be able to see these little pins, and then you can click on the pin, and that should put it up in the bar. Let's see if I can click it, and now it shows up. It's my happy day. Awesome. So we're gonna see what Accessibility Insights for Web thinks of this page of the New Paltz website. So I'm gonna click on the extension, and it's gonna give me a couple of options for how I want to go about my testing. So the first one it's going to give me is called FastPass, and all FastPass is doing is checking for like the 3 most obvious like common issues people make that can be tested for automatically, which if you've never accessibility tested before, it can be a pretty good place to start. It also has like some higher fidelity things, like there are checks that you can do that it guides you through. It takes about a half hour. Then they have a much more lengthy, like full compliance audit option. I'm not going to require you guys to do that in this class. I don't think we're building websites that are all that complicated. I think if you're thinking about inclusive design from the start, like it's going to be kind of hard to really mess it up too bad. And I'll try my best to see what I can catch if, as long as you're doing your part and doing the smaller things, at least trying. So I'm going to go for FastPass, and this is going to generate another window. And this is one thing I don't love about Accessibility Insights for Web, is it now I have 2 browser windows. And let's make it a little smaller. All right, so first thing it did was it did some automated checks, and it can use that to detect some things automatically. And it looks like it found, like what I just mentioned before, a link that does not have an accessible name. And so I have the visual helper turned on, which means it should highlight that link for me. And there it is, whatever that number 1 is. I think it must be like let's take a look at that. I'm going to inspect it and use the element selector to figure out what the heck this is. What is this? That's from Accessibility Insights for Web. I'm going to open another tab to see what's in that location, because it really did cover whatever it was. I don't actually have a link there. And that's another thing I want to make sure I go over. Sometimes automated checkers will pick things up that like maybe I have a Chrome extension or something that's outputting a random link onto the page. It's not actually there. And so like you should always take them with a grain of salt, because they're just using an algorithm to check the page, which can be right a lot of the time, but it can't account for anything, every single thing that could possibly ever happen. So it's identified there's some sort of empty link element here that isn't actually there. So I'm not going to worry about that too much, but it would also tell me like if there was an image on the page that had no alt text, or if there was a form field that was misaligned, or if there was a link with a really bad name. The next thing it's going to do is it's going to help me numerically label my tab stops, which goes back to the focus order and like the keyboard navigation aspect of testing. Before I turn this on, I'm going to turn off that. And so I'm going to hit the visual helper, and it's giving me some instructions on how to test. So this visual helper is going to highlight the elements on the page that are focusable with a keyboard, and it's going to number them as I hit them. So it'll create a little visualization for me so I can see the order of all my links and buttons on the page. So I'm going to go ahead and hit visual helper. I'm going to come back here, and now I'm going to press the tab key on my keyboard, and it's going to start tagging my links with numbers. And that first link you saw, that I don't know, some of you saw it, some of you didn't probably, is a skip to main content link, which is something you're required to have. But that's a component I'm gonna give you for your header that's gonna like turn into a responsive menu, and then I'll also make sure to include a skip the content. So as I'm going through, like this is all behaving as I would expect it to. I want it to go left to right, and I want it to go from top to bottom. So I'm going on through my links. It's going into my search field, it's going to my search submit. There's that random link in the middle there. I don't know what that's about. My breadcrumbs, and it's going to scroll me down the page as I keep going. Okay, this is still doing what I would expect it to. So we're going left to right, top to bottom. Awesome. Look at it go. Oh, I'm interested to see what it does with those social buttons, because it seems to have skipped them. Is it gonna do them last, maybe? Yep. Okay, it's gonna do that middle column last. That's a little strange. I'm not freaking out about it though, because I think that if that was last, it wouldn't like ruin the experience for somebody who was on a screen reader. But sometimes it'll like do all the form fields in a page in the wrong order, and the order actually matters. So that's a good thing to look out for. Yes. I'm guessing because they reordered these elements with CSS when in the HTML, this is actually at the end. So like, it also might be at the end in mobile. Yeah, look at that. See? So like when we get into styling, and this is why I'm teaching you all about this now. So when you get into styling, you don't accidentally commit a crime. This would be my expected focuser is what I'd want it to do, that it's going top to bottom, left to right. And this is an issue sometimes you might run into when you're doing responsive design, that they were like, well, when there's more space, this looks pretty cool in the middle. And like, it does, it looks nice, but it does change the, what's called the DOM order, and DOM stands for document object model. And that's just everything in the body tag that you see on the screen. Yeah.
Okay.
It means that it's a link or a button and it's not keyboard focusable, which is not good. And definitely something you want to look out for. I think that's what it means. See, I find the way that, so the reason why I'm going to show you a few tools, and you might decide you like one over another. I think they're all perfectly nice. One thing I don't love about this one is I feel like it just like doesn't visually indicate things well enough for me to fully catch things the way I wish I could. I have a little bit of a bias towards the last tool I'll show you, but I'll also say I literally took like a certification course in the last one I'm going to show you, and maybe got a little bit more education in it before I started using it. Cool. Let's see what else it wants us to do. So it says tab stops, and then we're going to look at what it thinks needs review. So it's also flagging for me that there are, there are 32 examples of spots on this page that they want me to take a look at. They're not sure if it's wrong or if it's right, because I'm guessing it is due to the fact that these links are all on top of a background image. And so the way automated checkers calculate color contrast is they'll grab the hex code of the element that's listed in the CSS that is behind the text, and it will grab the color attribute off the text, and it will run those numbers against each other. When your text is on top of a background image, it's not able to do that. And so then you have to run those color contrast checks manually, which is fine. Like, it's not bad to put text over an image. I do it all the time. But in those cases, I have to like use a different tool to sample the color out from behind the text, like the eyedropper tool, to like get a hex code. Usually I'll pick, like, if it's white text, the lightest color I can see that's behind it. Because in this case, like if the lightest color wasn't passing, what I would do is I'd increase the opacity of the blue overlay on the image, whether I did that in like Photoshop, or if I am doing it with CSS in the browser, I would just make sure to kick that opacity up to bring color contrast up. So the tools can also kind of like point you in the direction of things you should be checking on. So in this case, it's telling me to check on all the links in the footer because they're on top of an image. And so like, that was a pretty good place to start. I think we'll see similar results from the other tools. But that the little fast pass thing's a good place to just be like, okay, really quick, I just want to know some stuff I need to start with. It can be great for that. Let's talk about the other tools. So then there's this other one that is called Axe DevTools. It's made by a company called Deque. It also is a Chrome extension, but it shows up in a different spot. So I'm going to install free Chrome extension. Guess what? I already have it installed because I love web accessibility. But you could probably find it and it will say add to Chrome. So now if I go back over to my page from earlier, I'm going to make sure to do a fresh page load because that accessibility insights for web definitely like added stuff onto the page as I was going. Maybe I'll do a different page for fun. I'm sure the home page is very chaotic. Let's give it a go. So I'm going to go control click. I'm going to inspect because how I get to Axe DevTools is different than how I get to accessibility insights for web. So I'm here, I'm on the page, I'm in DevTools, and up at the top here, I have the element selector. I have responsive design tools. It says elements, it says console, and then there's 2 arrows. I'm going to click on the 2 arrows, and all the way at the bottom of the menu there, it says Axe DevTools. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to bring me into a thing where it's going to tell me I should pay for their advanced version of the tool. I'm just going to ignore that because all I want to do is a full page scan, and that button is not paywalled. So I'm going to click it, and then it's going to like run a very official looking scan on my page. And holy moly, it found some things. It's also checking it against WCAG 2.2 AAA, which is kind of intense. I wonder if I could change that setting. Settings. I don't want experimental rules. Experimentals. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so in the free version, it won't let you pick your accessibility standard, but what it does is it just kicks it to the highest one possible. But that's okay. It's good to if you want it to keep you honest and really strive for excellence. You can run Axe DevTools and go against the newest and like most hardcore standard. But it also might help you identify like UX improvements you can make and strive towards even more greatness. But expecting this one to pass everything, like to clear everything on WCAG 2.2 AAA might be unrealistic. I'll just say that. Like even in my work, I wouldn't expect it to do that. But how Axe DevTools works, let me find one that's actually a good example. Okay, they have an image with no alt text somewhere on this page. So I'm going to open up the little accordion for that issue, and then underneath it, it says highlight, and I can click on that, and it will scroll me down to that part of the page. So looks like something I like about DevTools is like, it'll highlight it, it'll scroll me down to that location, and it will show me the markup code of that element. So if we look at this here, they have an image with an SRC, and it has a class, and that's it. The end. It has no alt text. So that's why it was like bad. It says no alt text. This is going to out loud reach the user /media /web assets /logos -images -icons. Miserable. So definitely want to have alt equals, and this is an example of alt text that it's an image of text, which first of all, you want to avoid in general. If you're putting in text in an image, ask yourself, why am I not just putting that text onto the page? In this case, it's a logo. So that's like a special scenario where they're like, oh, you should, if it's a logo, you're allowed to, because logos are supposed to be like stylized. It might be a real pain in the butt to stylize the logo to look exactly right in CSS. Just to use it once, that seems kind of extra. So you can put the image down, but you're required to write the text that is in the image into the alt text, so that way it gets read to the user. That's all. In the case, if your website has a logo in the top corner, I actually only learned this recently. For the longest time, I was just writing what was in the logo in the top corner. It is absolutely fair play to alt text the logo image to home, which I never really thought about, but that makes sense. All the other pages say where they're going, like links should say where they're going. So that's something to chew on. What else have we got in here? Ooh, is this that random link from earlier that we don't know where it goes? Get out of here. Oh, this is actually, so sometimes you'll get an issue that's actually tied to another issue. This one is because the logo is linked and it has no alt text. The link has no name because links, when you make an image be a link, the link's text is your alt text. So in this case, because it's a linked logo, now that link has no name either. So it's like sprouting off into multiple issues. What other ones we got? Ooh, here's, this one, Deke will catch your touch targets, which is nice. Show me where it's at. Ooh, so they have like a little play pause button. Remember when I was talking to you about, what is it? Pause, stop, hide, when you have like a repeating animation. They have this little carousel guy going on. Wow, that's annoying. It's very delayed. But, and so their heart's in the right place. They're like, oh, we don't want to just autoplay this carousel and make our users miserable. But what they did that was crazy was they made all the controls really teeny tiny baby. So that's not very helpful. So the nice thing is it can catch that for you when you're in the browser. I wonder where else it found it. It's probably the numbers. Or it's just the play and the pause buttons. I wonder why it didn't catch the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because I feel like they're pretty small too. And then we found so many color contrast issues. Oh, it's probably the footer again. Saying to check them. No. Nope. Next issue. Interesting. So it's saying that this text is overlapping elements. And so I need to investigate it. So it's like, you do have to look through and be kind of discerning because sometimes like this doesn't look like the color contrast is wrong to me. Like you guys could all read it off the projector, which is a pretty good litmus test of does it pass the vibe check. Looking at something on our projector is a very good example of where color contrast might matter. Yeah, no, it is catching the ones that are in the footer and saying you should check it yourself because it can't calculate it based off of the image being behind it. And so that's AxDev tools. I quite like it, but that is kind of annoying that it's stuck on 2.2. But also it should, yeah, like when you find an issue, when you open the accordion, it should at the bottom show what it is tied to. So like this one about inactive controls is tied to the WCAG standard. You'll see like WCAG with like a number at the end that's associated to 4.1.2, which, and also right before it, you see WCAG 2A, which I believe means 2.0. I'll have to check that. But either way, you can always copy the number and put dots between it and then put WCAG after it. And it should pull the standard it is up. And name rule value actually is 2.0. So I'm not sure why I pulled up the 2.1 site. Okay, yeah, there we go. If it shows up in the 2.0 site, that means it is a 2.0 standard. It's from that original set from 2008 that's been around forever. And you definitely want to follow 2.0. Like that's not even up for debate. 2.1, important if you have a mobile site. What else? I'll go over the last like fully automated tool, which is Lighthouse. And then we're gonna go on break because I have to give Stanley omeprazole and I need to plug my laptop in because it's gonna die. See, I'm just living life on the edge over here. Crazy. We got 9%. I think I can manage it. All right. So we tried doing AxDev tools and then maybe we'll go to another different page because it's fun. And they seem to just have accessibility problems all over the place. And we'll run this one through Lighthouse. Lighthouse is cool because it'll also run like mobile usability assessments as well as doing accessibility. And it will also check for performance. So like it will check to see if you put like a 4,000 by 4,300 DPI image into your website. That's not a good idea. It'll make your page load take forever. Lighthouse can catch stuff like that. Also, if you remember in the first couple of weeks of class, I talked a bit about SEO, like when we were setting up our head. It can do like SEO checks for you, but you can also choose which ones it's going to run. Let me get this out of the way. So how you get to Lighthouse is just like how you get to Axe, which is, let me go back to so like, let's say I've pulled up my DevTools by control clicking and clicking inspect. I'm in the elements panel. I click the 2 arrows and then you'll see Axe DevTools down there, but I'll see Lighthouse up here. And Lighthouse does a very similar thing to the other automated tools. It just does an automated check, but it has some extra stuff built in, and you can choose whether it's checking the mobile site or the desktop site, which is fun. So I'm just going to check the box that says accessibility, and maybe I'll check the mobile version, and then I'll leave it on the default mode. And then I press the analyze page load button, and it will do its own little audit. It's pondering. It really thinks through its life. Lighthouse is something that just comes with Google Chrome. That's another reason why I show it, is you don't have to have the permissions on the machine you're on to install Chrome extensions at all. Like, it's just already there. And it's pretty handy like that. And we're gonna see what Lighthouse thinks of newpaltz.edu. Okay, and also it assigns an arbitrary score. This is an issue I run into at work, actually, is that people get obsessed with Lighthouse and they will report this 98 accessibility score as their WCAG compliance, which is a no-go because Lighthouse can only check for 57% or 43% of issues. So what about the other 50? So it's got 98% of the 43%. So it's not a very reliable metric at that point. But it can be kind of helpful when you're just like starting from nothing and you just inherited a website that's existed forever and you're trying to just find the easy wins and find a way to measure your improvement at all. It can be helpful to have a metric. So we're not haters, but we just got to recognize the limitations of the tool. So looks like Lighthouse found one thing it thinks is an issue, which is in our menu. Lighthouse is not as good about scrolling you to the issue on the page. Like, you kind of have to read its description and like go and find it for yourself. It'll give you like a little screenshot of it, which is fun. So it looks like something that says institutional memberships. I can also command F on my page. I don't know if you guys know about this. If you press the command key and press F, it stands for find. And I can just type the word in that I see in the screenshot. Oh, there it is. Okay, great. So it's saying that this header level is the wrong header level to use. It's an H3. And just visually, it looks like there was never an H2, and that's probably what the issue is. It looks like, I think this is what the H1s look like. And then that's H3s. And see, this is another limitation of Lighthouse and why I prefer Andy, because I can't actually look at the document outline very easily to see what's wrong. All I know is it's like, I don't like that. So there's pros and cons to all these approaches. I'm okay with using any tools. I would just like you as you're building. It's like run a check every now and then at all. I think that'd be a good habit to form, because you can identify like the stupid and like vaguely embarrassing things without spending a lot of time or energy on it, and be better than if you didn't do it at all. So I try to be very common sense in my approach to accessibility, and like, you're not going to just be an expert automatically in one day, but if you make the effort to try a little bit, you'll learn with time and kind of get better with time, and a lot of it will start coming to you naturally. I find Andy's a lot better at just like taking you through more granularly and identifying things in context. I'm going to talk about that after I take a brief break to plug my laptop in. And also, I feel like I'm throwing a lot of information at you. I've been talking for 45 minutes. Brief break, plug in my computer, medicate the dog, and then I'd say in like 10 minutes, I'll get back started. I'll do an Andy demo. Sound good? Cool. Does anyone have any questions? Sweet. You can also brew up questions with time. So I'm gonna pause my recording. Awesome. Okay. So if you want to follow along with what I'm talking about, everything I'm about to talk about is written up as notes on that Allied testing page under resources. So if you're somebody who likes to be able to follow along with what I'm saying, this is where it's coming from. So like this, I have like the installation guide written out. I have some information about how to use it. I have little pictures, little descriptions of each section, and also like some related links. Cool. So ANDI is an acronym that represents the name of this tool, which is the Accessible Name and Description Inspector. It is a tool that is made by the federal government, particularly the Social Security Administration. Their like Office of Accessibility decided they didn't like the ways that they had access to. They saw those automated tools and they were like, these kind of suck. And it'd be cool if people who are sighted and don't use a screen reader could see the screen reader data in a way they're more used to navigating the web. So it's the idea is to kind of bridge the gap. A lot of the people who are in this room, I think maybe all of us, are all sighted people. We generally consume web content with our eyes. And what I like about ANDI is it will take the screen reader content and show it to me in written format. And so I'll show you maybe at the end today what doing screen reader testing can be like. And for me, I definitely have like some sort of audio processing thing going on because I find it very overwhelming to have the computer like screaming all the content on the page at me. I don't care for it. But I fear a really important part of my job is knowing what the screen reader content is and being able to evaluate it. So ANDI helps me do that. So I have a link to it in that post. ANDI has its own special little web page on the Social Security Administration's website, and they have the information about how to install it. This is not a very technical installation. They had to address the fact, this is another reason why this tool exists, is a lot of the time federal government machines are really, really locked down and people cannot install Chrome extensions. So the way this gets installed is you literally pick up the little pink button with your mouse and you drag it into your bookmarks bar and you let it go. I already have it there, so I'm just going to leave it alone. But that's it. You just drag and drop it right onto your bookmarks bar, and you now have ANDI, which I find is very handy when you're on a device managed computer where you cannot necessarily install extensions. So it works in, oh wow, it even works in Safari. Get out of town. That's crazy. I did not know that. Just drag and drop in your bookmarks bar. So we love that. It's not even just a Chrome extension. You use any browser that has bookmarks. Hooray. Basically, so I pulled up the New Paltz Athletics website because it seems to be an interesting one and it'll be fun to test. So once it's in your bookmarks bar, you go to the website you want to test and you click on ANDI. And then you will see the ANDI overlay, which is going to just take up a little bit of your top of the screen and it will automatically hop into ANDI focusable elements. But there's like a little drop down there and it will on its own kind of take inventory of all the content on the page and determine which ANDI features should be activated. So you'll notice in my little blog page, there's a full list of everything. So like you see tables are there, but when I look at my ANDI over here, there's no tables on this page. So there's no tables in the dropdown. Like it automatically will filter out like what it needs to have. So what it does is it kind of organizes its findings as well. It does do some automatic checks, but not only automated checks. So right out of the gate, it's in focusable elements. It's only going to look at the interactive elements on the page. So it out of the gate thinks that some of the images that are on the page have alt text that is too long, because a best practice with descriptive alt text for a meaningful image is that it does not exceed 250 characters. Back in the day, I used to say like kind of you should think about alt text like a tweet, but no, fuck Twitter, I guess. Blue Sky, anyone? Like similar in length. You should get the idea across, but like don't dilly-dally. What I'm going to guess is happening here, since these appear to be Instagram posts, is either the tool they're using to grab the Instagram post, or maybe the Instagram API itself wouldn't put it past a Meta company, is embedding the Instagram post description as its alt text. Wow, yes, it is. So remember before how I was saying sometimes I'd get warnings about something being wrong and then not being sure what is wrong? Andy's great because I can put my mouse onto something that has an issue, and then this is one of the best parts about Andy is it will show you what the actual real screen reader output for that thing is going to be underneath that part right here that says Andy output. So why it's complaining about the alt text on this image is it's saying it's way too long. It's exceeding 250 characters and I should consider condensing it, because what's happening is literally the social media text from the Instagram post is showing up here. It says game day with some emojis. New Palette Swim is back for another day of sports SUNY championship matches, blah, 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 blah. It goes on forever. It has like hashtags and stuff in it. That's not very good alt text because it's not written to be alt text. And so that's a no-go. We hate that. So those excessive text alerts are a good catch on Andy's part. But at the end of the day, all Andy is doing is looking through all the screen reader text and identifying things that might be wrong that you should take a look at. So it's like, that's really long alt text. It's also going to say, there's a disabled element somewhere on this page, and you should look at it. It has a little tool for showing it. I actually don't know where it is, so we're not going to worry about that too much. You might see results of accessibility testing mention something called ARIA. ARIA is generally used when a website has JavaScript in it to like help make sure the right accessibility roles are communicated. Like, let's say an accordion is expanded, or there is like an error state on something. There's also a kind of common one that's called ARIA hidden. And that is a way you can force something to be hidden from a screen reader and not be read out at all. So let's see some stuff they've chosen to try to hide. I actually don't know what it's trying to. Huh? Is this schedule ARIA hidden? Yeah. They've just hidden their whole sports lists for an unknown reason. Yeah, this website really is something. Yeah, they've made it ARIA hidden true, and they've put tab index -1. Tab index -1 is a way that people mess with, remember how I said don't trifle with the keyboard order? A way that people do that is using an HTML attribute called tab index. If you set it to -1, you can't put the focus ring around it anymore. It like prevents the user from being able to do that. But they've also added an ARIA label to it because that's outputting as well. So it has ARIA label men's cross-country schedule. Then it has ARIA hidden, which removes it, so no one's even going to find it on the screen reader anyway. So why leave the ARIA label? And then it had tab index, which you still didn't need if you had done ARIA hidden. So that's crazy work. Okay. What else do we got going on here? They got a JavaScript event that it says it might cause keyboard accessibility issues, so you should take a look at it. And a lot of keyboard access alerts, I'm guessing, related to this whole section having ARIA hidden and tab index -1. So lots to find there in focusable elements. In general, what focusable elements is doing for us is it's looking at the focus output of any interactive elements on the page, and their screen reader output for your form elements and your tab order. So it looks like they got quite a couple of issues in that region. I anticipate graphics and images will be similarly chaotic. Let's find out. So we're looking at graphics and images, and before we go into the alerts it seems to have mustered up for us, there is a couple of like handy little tools up in the top bar here that can help you kind of use your own best judgment about the use of images. One is you can tell it to dim out your inline images and like see, that's to help you, like if you're doing your own evaluation of like what images, if they weren't here, would I be confused about what's happening on this website? To help you kind of make that discernation of meaningful or decorative. Because remember, decorative images, we can just hide them from the screen reader. Like if it's just a little swirly line between paragraphs, what's anyone gaining from that? They don't need the screen reader to say swirly line before going to the next paragraph. That would actually be annoying. So like seeing it dimmed out can help you decide on your own what makes sense to have there and what makes sense to not have there. Like in this case, I think these would count as decorative images, the logos of the teams that they're competing against. Is that logos? What is this? I think, yeah, it's a SUNY AC logo. I would say these images are decorative because it says SUNY AC underneath it already. So it'd be like kind of redundant for it to read out SUNY AC twice. So they've actually, though, left it. They have the alt text of SUNY AC because they were like, oh my God, image of text. I need to put the exact text in the image. But they forgot you should first determine if it's decorative or meaningful. In this case, it's decorative because that text is already there. Why do we need to redo it? You can also hide background images. Is there a background image actually? It says there's one. Hello? I can't even tell where the background image actually is. So it must not be very critical because background images don't have an alt attribute. It's added, background images are added with CSS. So hiding them can help you decide again, like, oh, am I confused about what's happening on this web page without this being visible? So that kind of like lets you manually assess as opposed to just relying on the alerts that come up for things. It'll also gather what icons are on the page because there is, depending on how a website's implemented, like icons like social media icons or your menu icon or little triangles for a carousel. Sometimes they get implemented as images, which is perfectly fine. But sometimes when you have like so many icon images that you're going to use in your site, people will use an icon font. And they'll go in like this little element called an icon element. That's an I. And it's like, it's better for performance and page load or whatever, but I don't think what you guys are building will necessarily require that, but that's what it's doing. It's kind of just highlighting everything that is an icon. And I would make the argument those things probably need to have accessible names, but they might be provided in other ways aside from the actual image. Screenreader will not recognize this font icon as an image at an appropriate role, such as role image. I'm not like this is a case where I'd go back to focusable elements and check to see what the Andy output is for that thing that has an icon next to it, because I might not actually need the icon to be announced at all. Choose sport might be a sufficient name, and I don't necessarily need to worry about it. But yeah, those are some tools that are up there. But also, if you see things like elements with no accessible name in the alerts, that's probably your first priority. So let's see what images have no accessible name present. Oh, okay. So it looks like this is actually what I'd call a false positive. So this is what I like about Andy is I can like really see things in context as to what it's mad about. In this case, it's mad about the social media icon for their Instagram account not being labeled. Which, okay, actually it is right to complain about it because what is going to happen is right now it has no alt attribute at all, which is the worst case scenario because guess what it's going to do? It's going to read out the file name. It's going to read out logo primary.svg, which we don't want. So what actually should be happening here, because we already have like the handle for the social media, which I think is enough context for it, is you probably want to give this an alt that has a blank entry, like it just quotes with a space in it. So that way it doesn't try to read it out because that's pretty annoying. We got those alt texts that are literally the whole Instagram post. That's really something. We got a whole section of things that are ARIA hidden. Is it this? Oh yeah, so they've hidden this whole photo gallery because I guess they didn't want to deal with it, but also if you look before, it says the element's focusable, but it has or is contained by an ARIA hidden true. So they've just, one of the things I would say is in general when people are using ARIA attributes and adding them to your HTML, and why I actually don't really teach them to you guys is for what you're doing, you don't really need them for the most part. But also what's happening here is so common because the first rule of ARIA is don't use it. You shouldn't need it for the most part. But people who really mean well will start just flogging ARIA attributes everywhere. And they're like, I did it. I did the accessibility. And it's like, no, you actually just created like a literal nightmare web experience that like, if you wrap something in an ARIA true, hidden true, and it's focusable, I'm actually genuinely unsure as to what would happen. In this situation, I would probably power up voiceover and see what happens because I actually don't know. I might do that at the end because I'm not dealing with voiceover talking over me, and turning it on and off is really annoying. So that's fun. And we got some keyboard access alerts, which I didn't even know happened when you're in the image tab. So they've really done something special here. And what's crazy too is these icons, they gave them dynamic, unique names. So like this Instagram icon, even though it's in an ARIA hidden, if they hadn't done it, it would have read out women's sports lacrosse Instagram. So like they programmatically hit the women's list, then stitch that together with lacrosse, and then put it onto the Instagram logo. Like they dynamically generated a good accessible name. So I don't know why they put it in ARIA hidden. That's wild. Like if it was totally wrong or didn't have alt text, I'd be like, oh, I get it. They just didn't want to deal with it. But no, they actually did it. That's what I would do. That's crazy. They want something to do with role image. I would test that to see if that's right. You guys probably aren't going to run into anything like this. I'm not going to get super hung up on it. Let's talk links and buttons. So what the links and buttons section does, I actually, before I ever look at the accessibility alerts, I like to use this tool right here that's view links list. So there's two aspects. There's like kind of like two tabs to this one. There's the links section and then there's the buttons section. Like you'll see it'll count up all the links on the page and it will count up all the buttons. And so I first, if I want to look at my links, I can click 241 links and then go into the list. And what it's going to do, it's kind of like the document outline from earlier, that it shows me, it just takes all the links on the page and it shows me all their names. So it looks like they got a skip to main content link actually twice. Fascinating. They got a link to their calendar. They got some pretty good link names here. They're for the most part pretty unique. They're like being specific. They're even telling me it's going to open in a new window. We love to see that. Remember I was talking about that last time. Become a sponsor. Their logo goes, it's named home, like I was mentioning before. That's a good practice. They got lots of stuff about men's sports, basketball. Oh, they have all their dynamic names from earlier. Remember I was talking about that? That it like, they have generated it to be like men's sports baseball schedule, men's sports baseball roster, men's sports baseball news. Even though it's not what it says on the screen, they're assuming if somebody couldn't see the rest of the screen, how can we give a name that makes sense? So they did a great job with that. This is going to go on because they have about 1 million links on this page. I don't see anything too crazy. As you scroll through, the list will, if it thinks that a link name is bad, it will put like a little triangle next to it and highlight the line. Ooh, here's one. So like here, it doesn't like this link name. And it thinks it is an ambiguous link because it has the same name and description as another link, but goes somewhere different. They're like, that's weird. Don't do that. Because this one has, it goes to their Instagram page in general. And then this one also goes to their Instagram page. And this one also goes to their Instagram page. No, but it's not because I can actually see the link it's going to, which is instagram.com/NewPaulTalks. And that's the end of the link. And it's doing that on all of them. But I bet you later on in the page, there's another one. Oh, look, this one's at New Paul Talk and goes to their Facebook. So like maybe they needed dynamic link names here. So it'd say New Paul Talks on Instagram, New Paul Talks on Facebook. They were close though. They tried. Let's see if there's any other ones. This social area seems to just be problematic in general. Let's look at their buttons. Whoa, the button naming situation is really not great. They got a lot of buttons that are all just named the same. We got previous and next what? I'm confused. More previous and next, probably controlling different things on the page, but if I can't see the page, I don't know what that means. Previous, next, who? Who is she? Got a lot of repeated names, very ambiguous names. Pause what? Is there a video somewhere? Oh, it's to pause the carousel. So like in that case, it'd be like pause animation or something, like just a little bit more context would be helpful. But I find being able to look at the list helps understand versus trying to look at all of the, like trying to hop around through all these. Like I just like looking at the list because it also helps me use my better judgment. But sometimes I'm having a hard time locating it. I can look at it in like more specific context this way. But the most important thing of buttons and links is look at the list and see what you got there. And if you just looked at that list, would you know what they were doing? Because sometimes Andy will not flag them, even though like it's not a good user experience. My take is, why wouldn't like human-centered design and like a good user experience not apply to somebody using a different modality of access to your website? Structures, we've been here before. It lets you look at the heading order. And as per usual, they have found a way to serve something weird to us, which is their page is starting on an H2 called alert. I'm not even sure what that means. Where is their an alert? I don't know how they managed that. So like honestly, I'm like kind of impressed. They got a scoreboard somewhere. Hello? Then they got an H1 for SUNY New Paltz Athletics. Did I have to scroll down to find anything? Their footer has a header for some reason, even though it's not a visible header. Like none of these headings actually correspond to things that are on the page. This is fascinating. I would be, if this was something I was auditing, I'd be like, literally, what is happening here? We need to look at the markup of your whole site. What? Now I'm fascinated. What's happening? I'm going to investigate this further. We're going to go to view page source so I can just look at their HTML code. What are you guys doing? Let's search their H2s. Yeah, they made a class called hide to visually hide it, which like is a thing we do sometimes. Like if something's not necessary for like the regular user, I want to add some extra context for my screen reader users, but I don't want to change the visual design of the interface. I'll make what I call SR dash only, and then I'll add some CSS that'll just like remove it visually. That might enhance the experience for the screen reader user. But I don't know why they H2'd literally everything on the page for only the screen reader users, and then like they're H2ing their menu. That's fascinating. Yeah, I'm very confused by the way this website is executed. Point is, structures, you can check your heading order and your heading names to see if they make sense. These are weird heading names. You shouldn't be using headings to like label UI elements on the page, like your footer or your navigation. Like you should just use semantic HTML. And when you hit the navigation, a screen reader would say navigation. So like, why would you need to have a header there for it too? I do not know. This one's very handy. I really like how Andy does color contrast checks. It will do what any other automated tool will do for a page. It will run tests on everything it can automatically, and it will try its best to catch the things it thinks are wrong. And then you can click around and it should draw a box around it and let you decide for yourself. I don't agree with it on this one. It says it does not meet large text minimum. But if you look, you can actually see when you're looking at how it's evaluating it, it'll actually show you over here what it perceived as the text color in the background. And if you look, it thinks the background is white, but like, no, it isn't. It's like nearly black. So the nice thing though, is you can kind of recheck it yourself. They have a tool built in automatically that I can go ahead and do it myself. And so even on a photo, it lets me get behind it and sample out of the image. Did that go right? Yeah. And then when I click off of it, I will see that this color contrast ratio is actually 12.34, which is 3 times stronger than what's required. So these two are fine. And I kind of just like work my way through. These are more of those overlays. So it doesn't look like, ooh, this one's definitely actually wrong. So that's just pure red straight out the tube on white hits 4, which is almost enough, but it has to be 4.5. So that one does not pass. But what's cool is when it does not pass, it will always at the bottom give a suggested text color as close as possible that will pass. So I have text color. Come on now. Boop. So it gives me the text color, it gives me the background, it tells me that it failed, but then I get suggested text color, and it's not even that different. So like that's, I find pretty helpful, especially when you're evaluating an interface that's already there and you don't want to tell the person who designed it they need to like fundamentally change it in every way. You go, oh, literally we just need to like make it like a smooch darker and it'll be fine. That generally is received a lot better. The other thing it'll do is it will flag every spot where it thinks you should test manually. If it detects anything weird with the opacity that it thinks its calculation will be wrong or potentially not fully accurate, it'll encourage you to test manually, which is just doing this, like doing the, where did that little table of results go? Am I going crazy? Where does that part of the page come from? That's very strange. Is this like a menu item? I don't know how I'm supposed to actually check that. I will say these don't look like they're like it's literally like nearly black on white. So I'm gonna say it's probably fine. Not gonna take it on too much. And also I wasn't catching it in the other tests I was doing earlier. Another thing it'll do is it again will give you a tool for if you just want to be the judge yourself. Where there's a little button up here next to color contrast that says grayscale. If you click it, it'll turn your page black and white. And that's a pretty quick way to tell if your color contrast ratios are good, because if like you have like yellow text on turquoise text, it'll straight up disappear once you do this. So like the really extreme examples, it'll become very clear very quickly. But you'll notice it does not impact background images. So sometimes you'll still have some of the colors there. But that is also a helpful way to, even sometimes things will like technically pass, like numerically the color contrast checks, but this is a good way to check like, is it actually like a good user experience? Because the standards are helpful, but at the end of the day, everything can be different website to website, use case to use case, and you are the designer and you should decide if it's meeting your standards. And so that's color contrast. That's most of the things here. There is the hidden content one. It will let you reveal the hidden content, like force it to, it'll let you like kind of take inventory of the things that are being hidden with CSS. And like, I find this one less useful. I find myself not using it all that often, to be honest with you. It is a good way to, it's like a decent way to check if things are like showing up in the HTML document in the right order and aren't being like rearranged by CSS. But there's actually another tool in here that I find more helpful for this, which is under this advanced settings option, which I also included in the notes because advanced settings is there on all of the tabs. I don't think you have to be in a specific one. But in advanced settings, I can do this one that's called linearize page. And what that'll do is it'll turn off all the CSS like flexbox, absolute positioning, all the stuff you guys haven't learned about yet. Basically, CSS can rearrange how things are on the page and do your compositions for you. Linearize page turns all that off, and you get to see for yourself, oh, does the order this stuff has been put on the page in actually make sense? Because it can end up that things are like really insane. This one actually looks pretty okay. Like it's not showing these things in a row anymore. It's stacking them. Basically, it'll just try its best to stack things to the best of its ability. It's minorly helpful. I'm not obsessed with it. The other thing, oh, is that one under structures? I guess it is. Structures has one other or two other really helpful things in it. One is page title and page language. If you remember back when we were first writing an HTML document, we came up with a title element. This will check what's in the title element and show it to you in a little box, in case your tab is too short to actually see what's there. And this one, the page title is SUNY New Paltz Athletics, official athletics website. I would argue that's too long of a name, or it could just say home, SUNY New Paltz Athletics, but it's not like going to get them a violation or anything. When we go to their other pages on their website, let's see if, can we go to any page at all, please? Thank you. Oh, okay. I'm curious to see if the sub pages of the website. More details, page title. Okay, so it is actually doing what I would want it to do, which is it's putting whatever the name of the sub page is first. So that way that's what shows up in the browser tab. So if I have two pages from the same website open, I can differentiate the tabs. So this is what I would expect it to do. Is I have facilities open and I have fueling station open, and both of those have the beginning of the tab, because tabs are kind of short. If I did SUNY New Paltz Athletics and then dash whatever it is, it might make these tabs look exactly the same, and I wouldn't be able to tell them apart without going into them. So that's good. And then the only other thing you can check for is the page language. And I'm assuming most of you are going to set your page language to English. It's a quicker way without, if you can't access your HTML page to open it, or you don't feel like kicking open DevTools, you can check to make sure a page language is set there. Let's see, is there anything else I wanted to go over? Yeah, so like Andy kind of like walks you through a little bit more gradually and lets you decide for yourself a little bit more, explore the context of things. I find it quite useful. Like I said before, I did do like a certification in it, like back when I worked for the government, but actually the training for it and all the materials for it are actually just freely available on the internet. Like the trusted tester process that uses Andy is like fully documented on a GitHub website that I have linked. And there also is a free training, but it takes a while. Like I really like it. If you decide web accessibility is something interesting to you, it is like a free certification that is like pretty widely recognized in our industry, like amongst accessibility professionals. And also it's the only one out there that is free. So it will make you much better at doing web design and web development, but I don't require it or anything. I just linked it there in case anyone thought it was interesting. I do think just like a good starting point is like familiarizing yourself with Andy, maybe exploring the trusted tester process a little along the way. But a limitation to know of the trusted tester process is it is a US government process and therefore only looks at WCAG 2.0 and forgets all the ones about mobile testing. Which is only like 7 criteria. Like most of the criteria in 2.1 and 2.2 are within 2.0. But it's just worth knowing that like it's not like a fully comprehensive overview. But yeah, that's everything I wanted to go over today about accessibility testing. Key takeaway here is my hope is throughout your process, you're occasionally running XDevTools or Lighthouse or pulling up Andy and looking at things as you're working. And like keeping in mind some of the things I was talking about of like the link names and the header structure when you move into designing your website next week. This is an experiment. I've never told everyone all this information before we designed anything. I have a feeling it might yield a better result, but we're going to find out all together. It's experimental, but yeah. Anyone have any questions? Okay, you're all web accessibility baddies now. Anyone in the Zoom have any questions? All right, cool. Well, if you guys in the Zoom don't have questions, feel free to hang up. That's how I know you don't have any questions and that you're good. And we're here going to do studio time for the rest of class. What's up?
How would you do it, Andy versus Lighthouse versus?
Ooh, okay. So like
I'm trying to
Lighthouse, Accessibility Insights for Web, and Axe DevTools are all Chrome extensions.
right.
Lighthouse just comes with, oh, look, I feel like the damn Wizard of Oz. I'm gonna end the recording. Oh, maybe I shouldn't end the recording. Whatever. I'm just gonna be gigantic. Oh, you know what I can do? Goodbye. Lighthouse, Accessibility Insights for Web, and Axe are all Chrome extensions. Lighthouse is just by default already there. So that's a pro to Lighthouse. Lighthouse also does checks that are not accessibility, like just like web design best practices, web development best practices. It'll check for like SEO or like mobile behavior, which can be helpful. So it can do a little bit more than just accessibility. So that could be a merit to Lighthouse. Axe, I find it gets more in the nitty gritty and explores like WCAG 2.1 and 2.2 a bit better than the other tools because it's in active development. The company making it is like they're a global company and they're trying to make sure they're getting all the standards in there. Anything that can be automated, tested, they're doing it. Like at my job, Travelers pays for us to have licenses to Axe because it is the most comprehensive. Accessibility Insights for Web, I really like the tab visualization. That's its main merit, I'm gonna be honest.
They're all the same thing.
At their core, they're all doing automated, a similar set of automated checks.
Andy's, it's like, thing. That's right.
Yeah, and Andy also, you can install it on any browser. It's not just Chrome, because you're just dragging and dropping it into the bookmarks bar. It's a
Right.
JavaScript applet. But the TLDR of it all really is, these tools are helpful. You should try them.
Just one.
Yeah, no problem. Good question. And I'm gonna end the recording there. Goodbye, recording.